to me your secrets, show me your nightmares. All cats are gray in the dark, dear, whether or not you dare.
Welcome to All Cats Are Gray in the Dark. I'm your host, April Simmons. This podcast contains true cases of graphic violent crimes and other stories of a dark nature. Please be advised that due to the subject matter and violent, sometimes sexual content and obscene language, this podcast is not for children or the faint of heart. And we're back again.
Welcome back, everybody.
Today is the Q&A episode, which we're kind of recording these out of order, but I don't really care right now. We just felt like doing the Q&A now.
It seemed like a fun thing to do.
All right. So these are questions submitted from all over Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. People submitted to us.
And this isn't anything goes, right? It's
yes,
not on any topic.
Some of it's related to our subjects, and some is not at all.
I have not read any of these questions. They were all submitted to you, and I have not had a chance to look through them, so this will be a surprise round for me.
All right. Marry, Fuck, Kill, Scooby, Garfield, Mushu. And this is submitted by Justin from Mr. Whiskas Clubhouse.
That makes so much sense. Okay, what are the options again?
Marry, Fuck, Kill, Scooby, Garfield, Mushu. I think I actually had discussed this with you one day.
I think so. I'm going to marry Garfield because lasagna all the time.
Yeah.
Kill Mushu, and I guess, that'd be fucking a dog, though.
Well, yeah, but the other choices are a dragon and a cat.
Yeah,
so
that's true. I mean, what are you
Scooby works as the fuck option.
Yeah.
I just find Mushu annoying.
Yeah,
so
I want to kill him.
Yeah.
Definitely a kill, yeah. So, and I had marry Garfield because, lasagna.
Let's face it, I've said this to my husband many times. My spirit animal, I am a fucking fat cat, okay?
Oh,
that is too. Just, yeah.
Personality and everything.
All right.
You have to pardon my voice for this episode. I'm getting over the cruddy flu bullshit, whatever going on, so.
Yep. All right. We've got a question from Bana. I would like to know from both of you what's the creepiest encounter with the supernatural you've experienced, whether you think it really happened or not. I just like hearing these stories.
Mine would be the story, and I'm not sure if I've mentioned it yet or not. The morning I was getting ready to go to college, this was back in 1998, and I was in my bathroom curling my hair with a curling iron, and out of the corner of my eye, I had the bathroom door open, and there was a hallway there. And I saw this apparition go past the door and disappear at the end of the hallway, like just disappeared into the wall. But it startled me so much that I dropped my curling iron, and I still have a scar on my toe of where I burned my toe when I dropped the curling iron because it scared me so much. That's the most realistic supernatural experience that I've had because I saw that. I know I saw that.
Mine's probably the Thaxton house. And I know we already talked about that, so I'll go ahead and add another one that we haven't talked about. Shortly after my maternal grandfather died, I saw a residual of him. He floated through the bathroom while I was on the toilet.
Wow.
He floated through the bathroom door. It was just his torso.
That's how this was. There was no
this
feet.
is probably the closest I've seen to a full-on apparition. Like it was clearly my grandfather, but just torso and head.
I think seeing a family member is probably more scary than if you were seeing like a apparition that you didn't recognize. I think a family member, some might think that might be more comforting. I think opposite. I think it would freak me out more if I saw a family member ghost or apparition or whatever.
But I ran with my pants still down and everything. Like I just ran.
That was me. Yeah, I left my curling iron on and everything.
The reason why I say he was residual because he died of a heart attack on the way to the bathroom, and he floated through the door and he turned. He did not acknowledge me or look at me or anything. So I really think that was just a residual thing
Could be.
from his death, the way he died. And I know people think that's hilarious, though. He died on the way to the toilet, but
And
that's
you're
just what
sitting
happened.
on the toilet.
And I was sitting on the toilet. I also the grandmother from that same side of the family, when she passed, I don't know if this could be explained or not. I'm just going to tell you that I got a phone call that I swear to you was my grandmother after she passed. But it was such a normal conversation that it did not occur to me that she was gone until the conversation was over.
I've heard of things like that happening.
She called, she asked for my mother. My mother was in the shower. And I said, Mom's in the shower. And she just asked me how I was doing. And I said, okay. And I said, well, you want me to tell her you called? And she said, yeah. And then we said our goodbyes and we hung up. And then it was just like it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, oh shit, my grandmother's dead. Why,
Wow. Yeah.
And I never told my mother because I honestly have never heard my mother say whether she believes in paranormal or not. And I felt like it was still too soon for her, and it was raw, and I felt like I could not talk to her about that,
I've heard stories of like grandparents coming to children in their bedrooms and saying goodbye, like ghosts of them, and the kids coming out and telling their parents, Grandmommy just came and said goodbye to me or whatever, and then the phone ringing 5 minutes later, and it's the phone call that the grandparent has passed away.
Yeah.
I've heard of that happening pretty often, actually.
Yeah. Well, actually, this is still going off subject again, but I had recent years. No, it was towards the end of my first marriage. So it's still sort of recent to me in the scheme of things because I'm old. But it seems like yesterday. Basically, I had a dream that my aunt or somebody had told me that my uncle Herbert had died, which is like a great uncle. Not really that close with him, but I mean, I know him and stuff. And somebody had told me, I dreamed that somebody told me he died. And when I woke up, I had an email from my aunt that said that he had died.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, like the grandparents coming to say goodbye and stuff. It's like premonitions.
So that was really weird. I know we kind of went off there, but Bon, I hope that answers your questions, I guess. If you could interview any serial killer, dead or alive, who would you choose and what questions would you ask of them? And this is from my friend Mindy.
Mine would be Ed Kemper.
Just because he's so interesting?
It's because he's smart. He's not one of those, I guess dumb criminals or whatever. He actually is almost Mensa level intelligence, and I love to carry on an intelligent conversation anyway, but to carry one on with such a prolific serial killer who turned himself in would probably still to this day be out there killing if he hadn't turned himself in. He was just a brilliant mastermind, and I find him extremely fascinating.
I was originally going to say Bundy just because he fascinates me, but I guess what I want to include in this is if we could interview any serial killer, can I pick one that was unsolved, like Jack the Ripper? Can I interview him and find out who he is? I mean, like, if that's included, I want to pick like that or Zodiac or, somebody that I could.
It would just be like a random run-in in a bar. You're sitting next to a serial killer like Jack the Ripper, and you don't even know it, and you have a conversation with
So
them.
that's my very unspecific answer is that I would probably grill them about the crimes that they did, And she asked, what would you ask them? What would you ask?
I would ask him, why did he turn himself in? Why? Because he could have gotten away with it. What made him decide that he needed to stop and turn himself in?
I guess
I'm glad he did. Don't get me wrong on that.
If I was going to interview Jack the Ripper or Zodiac or something like that, I'd probably ask them for some sort of detail to confirm that it really was them. So there's, I guess, an answer to that. We may not be giving the answers that people want, but it's
It's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
There's so many other serial killers that I would love to interview, but
oh yeah,
all of them.
Yeah, same here. I would love to fucking talk to just about any of them. Mostly just for motivation, because some never really kind of gave any kind of motivations.
Most of them just like to do the interviews and talk just to hear themselves talking. You know?
Yeah, and they never really give any clear answers.
Very
on
generic
anything.
answers. Yeah, nothing. Really
and I like with Bundy saying porn was that's
only
not
reason that he
bullshit.
did that was to try to keep himself from execution. He thought if he could get on the Christian side doing interviews like that, blaming porn and other things, then it would keep him from execution because he could, become a spokesperson for don't do porn, and they would try to keep him alive.
Yeah,
he was wrong. Thank God, they still fried him.
All right, Chip sent in a question. Shadow people, where do you think they come from? I think we discussed this, but we didn't really come up with any one answer.
I'm not sure where they come from. I think it's from exhaustion. I think when people see shadow people is when they have had a really long, hard day, or they are under a lot of stress. I think it's like subconsciously coming through. Because I'm not sure I really believe in shadow people anyway. I think it has something to do with your mind being triggered.
I actually think it's from alternate realities bleeding through. Like we're just seeing something that's going on somewhere else. That's what I really believe it is.
That's an interesting observation.
Next question. This is kind of long, so stick with me. Investigative genetic genealogy is fast becoming an important tool for solving law enforcement cases. The DOJ has issued an interim policy on the use of this emerging technique. What role do you think this will play in shaping criminal behavior? And this is from Shara. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, sorry. From I'mInForJustice.org. She is the founder of the Gene Hunter LLC. So she works in the genealogy DNA stuff.
Very cool.
So I just thought that was interesting that she sent us in a question.
Absolutely. I love that, in the past 30 years or so, DNA has become such a big factor in finding criminals. Even rape kits from the 70s that were just put in evidence and left behind, they had no way of finding out who these rapists were, who these murderers were. And then when DNA was able to be extracted from these things, more criminals were being caught. So I'm 100% all for it. And I think as the years go by, it just gets better and better.
Yeah. But I think she's asking more specifically about the genealogy-based DNA that's come out just in the past few years, like what for the
great-great-grandfather's gene, going back to the genealogy that.
Well, it's like what caught the Golden State Killer, his daughter's DNA, and I think wasn't BTK was also through his daughter's DNA. I think.
No, BTK was caught because he messed up and used a church computer to write one of the.
Yeah, but I think they did actually use DNA from his daughter to match him, though.
Oh, wow.
He did. You're right, though. The church computer thing was a thing, but I believe so. Don't quote me on that. But I think she's specifically asking what role will this play in shaping criminal behavior. Like, how is this going to affect
Would
how
it scare people not to do it? Not to commit crimes?
Or how would it affect how they do their crimes in regards to evidence and things like that? That's a very difficult question.
I think that criminals are not becoming smarter. I honestly believe in this day and age, with the world as crazy as it is, they're not. They're being stupid. They don't care anymore. They don't wear gloves. They don't, fingerprints, or like some states and counties don't even have fingerprint analysis. They're not equipped for it. Like Tupelo, they don't have fingerprint analysis or anything. If someone breaks into your house and you say, "Can you take fingerprints?" They're just like, "We don't have that equipment. We're not equipped to do that." So criminals have just become stupid and careless. So I think that it's a good thing that this is coming about because, being that criminals have become more stupid instead of smarter, they can get caught easier by this means.
You're gonna laugh at this next one. Mothman versus Bigfoot, 1-on-1, who wins? And this is from the Cooking with Grief podcast.
I want to say Bigfoot because I like Bigfoot better than Mothman.
I think Mothman, simply because, to me, Bigfoot, if you believe in either one, Bigfoot is more of an animal.
Right.
It's just a regular being. And Mothman obviously has some kind of...
It's more supernatural.
Yeah, it's more supernatural. So I'm going to bet on Mothman just because he's got some weird powers and can fly. And
I'm going to agree with you on that one. I prefer Bigfoot, though. Bigfoot to me is way cooler. But, yeah, I think Mothman would win in that.
Just a side note for humor sake, my ex-husband was really afraid of Mothman after we watched that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I found that movie kind of boring, honestly.
At the time, it was creepy as hell. Just knowing that it was based on
somewhat
possibly true.
Yeah. Wasn't that, what, North Carolina or something?
No, I think it's West Virginia, I think.
Okay, yeah. I knew it was one of those states up around that area. Mm-hmm. Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina. And
this is a related question because somebody had seen that previous question.
Yeah.
Could both Bigfoot and Mothman be shape-shifting interdimensional beings from the Skinwalker Ranch? And this question's from the Grand Rapidians Play Video Games podcast.
That's deep, man. Yes, I suppose it's possible, but what the fuck? Okay, Bigfoot to me has been around a lot longer, though. There's been Bigfoot sightings way before Mothman came along.
Yeah. I'm just going to say yes, just because I don't know enough about the Skinwalker Ranch stuff to state on that. But I mean, is it possible that they're shapeshifters? Yeah.
If you even believe in them, anything's possible. I mean, if you believe in Bigfoot and Mothman, then why wouldn't you believe that they could be shapeshifters?
All right. We have another question. Do you think there is any truth to the witching hour? And this is from the Segway podcast.
I do, for the main fact that, well, as a mortician, we have what's called the witching hour, where we notice that most people, especially in nursing homes, die between the hours of midnight and 6. Now, that's what we call the witching hours. But I believe, to me, there's a witching hour that in my personal life used to be 3:15 a.m. Every single morning for over a year, my eyes would open and I would be wide awake and I would look at the clock and it would be exactly 3:15 a.m. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if someone was from another, dimension or spiritual world or something was stirring me at 3:15 a.m., but it happened for a long, long time. So that's what I call my witching hour, and I do believe there is something to it.
Yeah. I'll just say yes. I mean, the traditional witching hour is 12, but also people count any of the multiples of 3, 12, 3, 6, 9, that kind of. But I have noticed that it seems like there's like a thinning between worlds, if you will, or if you believe in that sort of thing. I really do think that those hours are significant. I can't explain to you why, but it does seem like more activity happens during that time.
Well, it's like having a harvest moon or a full moon, a blood moon, especially around a holiday. People in the medical field or like the police field, 911 dispatchers and police force, and they will tell you that people go crazy. It's like the tides and stuff change, and it affects people. I think it really does.
All right. Next is, I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on H.H. Holmes. He's one I've done immense research on in several papers and speeches in college. I love hearing other people's thoughts on him. He was cray. And this is also from Bonna. Shout out to Bonna, who is obviously our biggest
awesome.
fan.
Number one fan. We love you, Bonna. The hotel guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a great documentary I just watched on Netflix or Hulu about him, and I learned a lot that I didn't know. I would have stayed at that hotel. It was a cool looking hotel. I would have stayed there. I probably would have died.
Yeah.
He's a fascinating character. He really was. He was to manage to have killed that many people.
It's what Horror Story Hotel is based on, I believe.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
I only got in like 3 or 4 episodes of American Horror Story Hotel. There was a fantastic blood orgy scene with Lady Gaga, but that's pretty much as far as I got on it. I couldn't get into
that's actually pretty much about it, how far I made it.
We always get to the blood orgy, and then it just kind of fizzles out.
We're like, well, you can't beat the blood orgy. We're done.
The blood orgy.
No, for H.H. Holmes, I don't know as much about him as other serial killers, but I do find it interesting that he had all of that stuff built and got away with so much for so long. But I have a question for you, Bonna. I want to know if you think, because we discussed it, I think, very briefly in a previous episode, that some people think that he went over to London and was the Jack the Ripper, because he did travel back and forth to London at least some of the time during that time period. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that, I guess. But yes, he was cray.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you can't kill that many people and not be certifiably insane.
And Philip actually sent us a question.
Oh.
Hi, Philip.
Hi, Philip.
He'll probably never actually listen. He's listened to like 1 or 2 episodes and he hasn't caught up. Perfect. Have you ever looked into the phenomenon of suicide forest, and he puts the name of it? Do you think there's a presence that leads to people to commit suicide, or could it be just a tranquil place to do it? We did discuss that in the Getaways episode.
We did, yeah.
We honestly don't know, but we do think that there's something going on there.
I want to go there. I have no desire to go to Japan.
I think that there's some kind of bad juju there, but you already have to. I think you already have those thoughts at least. And then something there triggers it.
Yeah,
I think
you're not
some kind of bad
this
juju.
happy-go-lucky person and suddenly decide, oh, this would be a great place to kill myself.
But I think that if you've already got those thoughts, or you've got bad shit going on in your life, and you go someplace like that, and there's this weird negative energy, I think that does play a part in that. I think that's what it was.
It could be a gravitational pull there, that can bring someone's mind down.
Next question.
Also, if you are feeling suicidal, please get help.
Yes,
I just need to add that in there. If you feel suicidal enough that you want to go to a haunted forest in Japan and kill yourself, find a therapist. Talk through it.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick break right now.
Do you like podcasts? Do you like cats? Do you like podcasts named after a cat and contains extremely vulgar humor? If so, I have a show for you! Hi, I'm Justin Kyle, host of the Mr. Whiskas Clubhouse podcast, and I'd like to welcome you to the Clubhouse.
Oh, I'm gonna fart really bad. I already saw it, I kind of push, and I felt something drip down my leg. Oh. It kind of blew my mind that you've never heard of a fleshlight before.
I can't believe. The fuck are you waiting for? Mr. Whiskas Clubhouse is available on all your favorite podcast apps: iTunes, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, and many more. Or just simply go to www.mwcpodcast.podbean.com. Meow, bitch.
And we're back again.
Yay, more Q&A.
More Q&A goodness. Alright, where were we? Okay. Was there a podcast that made you want to start your own, and why? And this question comes from Podfluence on Twitter.
The first podcast that I ever listened to made me want to do one myself, but it was on a completely different subject matter than what we discuss. It's called Sexual Disorientation with Dr. Ramani Devazala, and she is phenomenal. And she also has she's a psychotherapist, and her co-host is a porn star.
Wow.
And they're really great. They don't just talk about sex. They talk about narcissism, different personality types and things like that. But it's a fantastic podcast, and I'm plugging it right now. If you ever get bored and want to listen to another podcast, Sexual Disorientation is great.
For me, it was Mysterious Circumstances. I think I dropped a mention of it in another episode. Justin Rimmel. He had me as a guest on his. A funny story how we ended up coming across each other is I had like a little, I guess, zine or blog type of thing on Facebook called Mysterious Circumstances, where I just basically mostly shared things about weird cases or paranormal stuff, different things like that. And I started getting messages for his podcast, and which I did not know existed until I started getting those messages for him, because they thought that was the Facebook for that podcast.
Oh.
Because he covers true crime and paranormal. Because of that, we crossed paths, and I started listening, and I enjoyed it. Enjoyed the show. I really liked the fact that he does all his research and stuff, but it's a very laid back atmosphere. He cusses, he drinks beer, whatever. And I kind of just liked that laid back atmosphere combined with the facts. I guess I really enjoyed that, and I thought, I want to do something like that. We don't do as much research. That's not our forte. He's much better at it than I am.
Yeah, we're kind of off the cuff, just to say what we're thinking in the moment.
But that's pretty much what got me started on podcasts, was Mysterious Circumstances. You should all check it out. Next question. Oh, and by the way, yeah, we're probably starting another podcast that's similar to what Sahara was talking about. So, stay tuned for that at some point when we get it figured out. Next question. I know that some have discovered patterns to it, but what do you believe are some of the main reasons that most serial killers are men and not women? This comes from Danny B from Retrostalgia Podcast.
This is going to be the most feminist thing I think I will ever say in my life. I think it's that women are just smarter and get away with it. Is that bad? I am not a feminist.
That's not even where I was expecting you to go with that. I thought you were saying that they were too smart to commit crimes and get. No, but you're just saying they don't get caught.
They just don't get caught. Yeah.
Well, and most female serial killers are just poison people in their lives and stuff.
It's true. Or we're just so terrible that we just convince people to kill themselves. I don't know. We are evil people as females. We're just, that's my thought on it. I think women just, because you don't expect it, I think, of a female. When you think of serial killers, you always think of, men.
I just don't think women are as violent. Because even the cases of, like I was talking about, mostly poison, that's not really violent.
Mm-hmm.
To them, I'm not saying it's right, but to them it's a means to an end. It is practicality more than anything else. But for men, it's usually violence. It's an act of violence.
It's a power trip.
It's a power trip. It's about control and dominance and that kind of thing. And you don't really see that as much with women. I mean, it still does happen.
Eileen Wuornos, she wasn't even smart about it, and she still got away with it for a long time.
Yeah.
I think women are just, for some reason, they're not looked upon as the type, therefore they get away with it longer. I do believe that there are, in this day and age, there's female serial killers out there right now that are getting away with it because nobody thinks of them in that way.
Yeah. All right, here's another question. Can spirits, aka nice ghosts, and demons, aka mean ghosts, exist in the same place simultaneously, harmoniously? Would they be aware of each other?
I don't think so.
And this one's from Katie. She sent several, so I had it written underneath all of them.
I think that the demonic spirit or the poltergeist would probably drive out the nice ghost.
I think they could exist in the same place, but I think you obviously wouldn't be seeing the nice spirit as much as you would the bad spirit, because it would probably just try to stay in the background. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess I don't think they would live. They could live in the same place simultaneously, but I don't necessarily think harmoniously would be. Yes, they would be aware of each other, I believe, unless they're like residuals, which I mean, I don't think residuals are necessarily good or bad, but I'll just say yes overall.
Yeah, I think so, but I think one would drive the other out eventually. The demon or poltergeist would overpower the residual ghost or apparition and probably drive it away.
Another question she had was, do ghosts more often cling to people or property, and why either?
I think histrionic ghosts do, because it's what they're familiar with. I think that if there are such things as ghosts, I think they remember and they want to feel that resemblance of what they once were. So I do think they cling.
But do you think they more often cling to people or property? Which one?
I think both simultaneously.
Really? I think it's more property, unless they just have some unresolved business with a person. It's like, I think they stick more to property just because it's something familiar tying them to this world. So I think
like a house, like if a ghost if a person once lived in that house and they died in that house, even if the family moves away that was in that house, they remain with the house and don't go with the family.
Yeah. Like I said, unless I think the only reason that sometimes they may cling to people is because of some unresolved business with that specific person.
I'm not done with you yet.
Come back here. I'm totally haunting my husband when I die. Like, bitch, better not move on too quick.
I'm not, because I already feel sorry for him as it is. He married me. He needs a break.
But she said, these are the things I think about. Hope it helps.
Yeah.
Thanks, Katie. And then Amanda sent us a whole bunch of questions. This is Amanda Fowler.
Oh, we love her. Hi, Amanda. Shout out.
Okay. Do you think animals like cats and or dogs can sense paranormal and see things, spirits, demons, presences that not all humans can?
Yes.
Yes. 100%. That's a really simple.
Yes.
That's a really simple one. Everybody has
in the middle of the night.
Everybody has a cat just staring at the wall or something.
Right now. Yeah. They see things. 100%.
Do you think babies can see ghosts? In other words, basically same question, but apply it to children and babies.
I do. I definitely think that children can tap into things because their brain is still developing, and I think because of that, it influences.
I think we kind of answered that with the whole the story about Nancy in the graveyard and Nora in your house.
And, 100% think so.
But she says, I asked because when my oldest was a baby, she was very verbal, even from an early age, and she used to smile and talk to and laugh at what appeared to me to be nothing at all, but it gave me the heebie-jeebies. Yes, it happens all the time. It really and truly happens a lot more than you may think. Another one from her, do ghosts know they're dead or not? I remember watching a Nicole Kidman flick called The Others, and it brought up some question about this.
I think some do and some don't.
I think the residuals don't.
Yeah.
For sure, because they just don't.
And I think it sometimes happens with a sudden traumatic death as opposed to a long drawn out, say, death from cancer or Alzheimer's.
Because they don't know what happened to them.
Right. A sudden impact type death, it's like they're just thrown out of their bodies and perhaps stuck there. and don't realize it.
And then she said movies actually bring up lots of questions. Are ghosts actually real as spirits, or is they merely energy that remains from volatile events? I think both, honestly.
I think both. If they do, in fact, I'm still skeptical. I will always be a skeptic on the thing, but on the subject matter. If they do exist, then yeah, I think both.
And she said, think high spirits, or are they more like in the Haunted Mansion, they need to attain some happening or realization before they can move on? Or are they just plain stuck forever like Casper?
I think they need an exorcism. Not like the old school exorcist, the power of Christ compels me. Just maybe having someone ordained or whatever come to your house and bless it.
But I really do believe that both types are out there. The ghosts that are energy remaining, that's what I call a residual, is some kind of energy that remains. It's almost like I still feel
my first husband's presence sometimes. He's been dead for 3 years now, and I sometimes will just be here alone, or I'll be in the bedroom going to sleep, and I feel like he's still around me in some form or fashion, I feel his presence. Not exactly as a ghost, but I start thinking about him, and I start having memories, and I just feel like he's there, even if just in spirit, not actual ghost spirit, but just his presence, his remaining energy.
I have 2 more questions, and then we're actually done. Whoa!
Wow!
I thought we weren't going to make it through all these. Some of them we were just kind of like, yeah.
So easy, simplified answer. Yeah.
Inquiring minds want to know, how did you meet?
How did we meet?
Yeah, I thought we kind of discussed that.
Yeah, we met at Spire, our paranormal investigations. A group of people.
We had a mutual sort of friend that put together the ghost hunting group, and when we all met up to discuss what we were doing, we met each other.
And that was in 2002, I want to say. 2001, 2002.
I'm looking at you for this one because I have no fucking clue.
I believe it was after I built my house. And I built my house in 2001.
Yeah.
And it was very soon after that, because I still had my hot tub, and I sold it the year that we built the house. I bought it, and I was like, I'm never really going to use this. So yeah, it was 2001. We've known each other that long.
Wow. Our pet cases are most fascinating cases. I think we kind of touched on that a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my pet case would be Leochi. I'm not sure. But
I agree. It's so fascinating, that one, because it's unsolved. I think that's
it's our local one, so it's kind of
right.
But the most fascinating case to me, God, it's really convoluted ones, like the rabbit hole ones that I will sit and think about at night, like John Benet Ramsey or the
Cindy
one we
talked about. Yeah, the Cindy J.
The one that was
the car that.
Oh no, that's Maura Murray.
Okay,
Cindy James, we're actually probably going to do a future episode on. It's a Canadian one where she had been getting harassing phone calls or whatever, but the police eventually decided that they thought it was just her, that she was making shit up.
But she was
but she was found dead, tied up with and everything.
Oh, wow.
So. But the cops think that it was some kind of convoluted suicide, that she made all of that shit up. I'm still torn on it because there are
attention seekers out there for sure. I mean, even locally, there's a crazy person that calls 911 every single day. And sometimes it's just old elderly people that are lonely and just want someone to talk to. And then there's just actual crazy people out there. So, yeah, there are attention seekers out there, but you have to take every case as valid. You have to look into it and make sure. I don't know. I'll have to look that one up. That one interests me.
We're probably going to do a future one about it because it's
just research on that one.
A big old rabbit hole, because there's really some evidence to support both sides of this, whether she did it herself or someone else did it, because it was also she started getting harassing phone calls around the time her and her ex-husband split. So some people theorized that it was him.
It was him, yeah, because you can use
but
voice
there's
changers.
But there's really
like
no
that.
proof. But there's really no proof.
She didn't record any of them? Or
I don't think so. They
always
could
get
never
proof.
find
Always
any.
get recordings. Do what you can to get solid evidence. Especially if someone is stalking or harassing you, because those cases are extremely hard to prove.
And the cops even tried to tap her phone because at first they believed that she really was getting harassing phone calls and threats and stuff like that. And she even had an attack previous to her death.
From the ex-husband? Or they didn't know?
She said she didn't know. They attacked her while she was in the kitchen.
From behind, I guess.
I guess.
Yes.
Some
I think BTK sounding shit right there.
I don't know,
Sneak
but
up behind you in the kitchen.
I think she like woke up and called the cops or something, and she had marks on her, and I think she even had like a small stab or scratch wound from a knife or something. I don't know, but eventually this stuff kept happening so often
that they started not to believe it. It was like
they started
wolf.
yeah. That they never found any proof of somebody breaking in.
And then she ended up dead, though.
But she ended up dead, and they think she.
What was the cause of death?
I'm thinking strangulation, but I'm not 100% sure. And I'll have to look it back up. Like I said, we'll cover it on another episode.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm interested in doing that.
But it's just a really fascinating case because it's like. I can't, honestly, it's one of those I can't make up my mind. Like, there's been moments when I'm like, no, there's no way she fucking did that by herself. Did it to herself. And then there's others where I'm like, well, the cops did test it and they said it was possible. It's not easy, but it's possible that she tied she tied up herself at least. I don't know. But it was possible. Let's just put it that way. But I'll have to go back into the details. It's been a while since I've looked at it.
I'm going to look that one up.
All right. I guess we're going to wrap this one up. And
if you have any other questions, we really enjoy these. This is
we'll probably do another. We'll probably do another Q&A. Maybe we'll probably do one like maybe every 10 episodes or something like that.
Sure.
But maybe not even a specific number because fuck it, we don't care. And
anything goes. You can send us
you can ask us personal stuff. We don't care. And also, thanks to everybody that sent in questions.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Those are fun.
Let me check. I think I have some shout outs to do. Shout out to Evidentiary. That's also a good true crime podcast. They do their research. It's really good. And Bempire Radio. Bempire Radio. We're going to give a shout out to them too. So check that out. It's a music podcast. And basically, just check us out. We're all over the place now. We have a Twitter account. It's All Cats Podcast, and it's the same on Instagram. And you can look up the name of the podcast on Facebook and join our discussion group. Which right now there's not very many people, but I post when we have a new episode and stuff like that, so you can keep up with us that way. And
we're growing, we're learning, we're getting better.
Yep. We're almost to 500 listens.
Fantastic.
I know. It's not.
Thanks to all of you.
We're not getting rich yet, but we're getting some listens. So.
We're not in it for the money. We're in it for the fans.
What are you talking about? I'm in it for the money.
Our fan.
Thanks, Bonna.
Thanks, Bob.
Anyway. Later, guys.
See ya.
Talk hard.
Talk hard.